Hi guys! Today's video is all about what it's been like to be a nomad for almost 3 years. I originally wanted to do another video on Albania because this place is really interesting and I want to see more videos on Albania. I have a lot to say about that subject too, but what's really important to me right now and what's really exciting for me to talk about is just the fact that I'm finally really settled in a home for the first time in about, like I said, about 3 years. I've been here for 4 months and that is longer than I've stayed in one place for a really long time. I can't even remember the last time I stayed somewhere for 4 months. So I want to just explain my little origin story, how I became a nomad, why I chose this life. I really never set out to do this. I wanted to be an expat. I wanted to just live in one place and that didn't work out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of give you the breakdown of what happened to me and why I ended up here. And by the way, this is my apartment. This is my wonderful, beautiful home. I live in a really nice neighborhood, but it's kind of got its pros and cons. But I'm really happy here. I have 2 dogs. One of them is over here. One of them is back in the bedroom sleeping. And while they are asleep, not running around like crazy, I'm gonna take the opportunity to share my life with you. So if you're a nomad, if you are thinking about traveling, maybe this will give you some inspiration. Maybe this will give you something to kind of think about or some ideas of how you can do it too. Maybe it will change your mind and you won't want anything to do with travel. So let me go ahead and just dump my ideas onto you because it's a lot. So first of all, I originally started off as a very structured person, living as an elementary school teacher, working full-time. I had a master's degree in education. I was living in a house in the suburbs with a boyfriend for 4.5 years, and I had all the things that I was supposed to have. I had a very structured life. Everything was normal and ordinary, and I was supposed to be happy, right? And I found myself just feeling really trapped, and it's hard to kind of go back and explain this without getting into detail, but I was in a really toxic relationship and I wound up leaving this person in January of 2016 and my entire life changed. I no longer had a job because I moved to a completely different city. I was living in my grandparents' house, so I no longer had any real control over my environment, and I basically had let go of a lot of my belongings. I took whatever I could to move there, and it was basically packing up a suitcase and going to a new home. I didn't really know anyone in this city. My family's from there, but I'm not, so I was pretty much alone, stuck with my thoughts, directionless, and I felt really embarrassed because I had just let go of a pretty cushy life, and I also had let go of any direction. Now I was kind of just mooching off of my family like a bum, and I was broke and I had no future that I could speak of. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I had a lot of shame and guilt, and I kind of distanced myself from my old work friends or from friends that had lived in that other city, and I isolated myself. And eventually time went on. I wound up getting some jobs which were mostly just because, well, first of all, I was broke. Second of all, I was seeking healthcare. And this is what really solidified the fact that I needed to leave the United States. I wound up having a freak accident and ending up in a hospital, and it was 2 weeks before my healthcare kicked in. I had a bill of $20,000 from the hospital, and that was after they reduced it, after I called them and said, hey, this is gonna bankrupt me, I can't pay that much. And they basically said, okay, we'll reduce it to $20,000. And I paid as much as I could. I put it on credit cards, I spent any savings that I had left, and I was just dead broke as broke can be. And so I was living with my mom. Again, I had this job. I I had worked 2 separate jobs that the health insurance basically amounted to nothing. And I was really miserable. I mean, my whole life had gone from making a lot of sense to making 0 sense. And I was very alone, very isolated, because it's really hard when you're depressed and going through a hard time to like open up. So this is the main part of my story, because I felt pushed out. I felt like America just was too expensive, and I felt like I didn't have much left. I didn't have any money. I didn't have the friends that I used to have because I was too depressed. I was also taking Xanax, which was prescribed to me, and it's an anti-anxiety medication. So I was having these crazy mood swings, like up and down, and losing a lot of weight. I was really unhealthy, and I knew that something had to change. So I somehow wound up, Googling like remote work, how to travel, or like how to do anything that would like give me happiness or make me feel like alive again. You know what I mean? And what I found was that I could do TEFL, teaching English abroad, and I also found digital nomads. I found that a lot of people will go to cheaper places to live, to work remotely, to save money that way. And I found that if I were to sign up for a TEFL course, I might have an easy way to do that. So what I did was I found a TEFL course in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Now I believe it's called Czechia, but I decided to sign up for this, and I basically sold all of my belongings. I sold everything of value that I had. I sold my piano, my guitar, I sold my, camera, any old like technological device that I had, clothes that I had. I sold whatever I could, and I bought a plane ticket to get to the Czech Republic. And I paid for this course. It took basically all the money that I had, and I worked really, really hard to get to do this. And it was one of the happiest moments of my life when I finally left and I arrived in Prague, and it was so different from where I'm from. It was like the first time that I'd really felt like I was traveling, like I was living this adventure. I get all choked up talking about it, I'm sorry, but as I said, this is a subject that really made me feel passionate, so I want to share it with you guys, and let's just get to know each other. This is like a new channel. I want to like share things that are real with you guys. So anyway, I get to Prague. It's life-changing, it's magical, it's like a wonderful fairy tale. I made friends right away. This course was amazing, it was so good, and I really felt like I had found my home. But the only thing was, as I said, pretty broke. Family also didn't have money that they could just put in my bank account, so I'm on my own, and I decided to myself, okay, maybe I can't live in Prague right now, maybe one day. And I decided to go, once my 90 days of a tourist visa was up, I went to the only other place on the continent where I knew someone that was outside of the Schengen area, and I basically followed a guy. I followed a boy over there to Croatia, and Croatia was also just stunning, and it blew my mind. I had been thinking Prague is the only place for me. I love Prague. Prague is beautiful, it's unique. Nothing will ever match Prague. And when I got to Split, Croatia, it was like nothing I've ever seen before. The first night I was there, I just wandered out of my Airbnb and like went across the street, and I wound up inside of a palace, and I wound up just wandering this like crazy maze of ancient walls and, you know, this beautiful old architecture. And I wandered through, it was twilight, everything was like glowing with this like blue color, and I went through one passageway and there was the sea, the Adriatic Sea right in front of me, and it was like sparkling in the twilight, and I will never forget it. There is something so magical about Split, Croatia. And this time of my life was one of the happiest but also saddest periods, because I knew that I wanted so badly to live there. I wanted to live just in Prague, in Croatia, anywhere that would give me this feeling of excitement. And I knew that I couldn't, that it wasn't the right time. So I had to leave. And I came up with all these plans, like these kind of harebrained ideas that I had just done all this research on trying to find out where can I get a visa? How do I live here? How do I make this work? And I had decided on Japan, on Korea, on going back to Prague, on living in Russia. You know, I had come up with all these different ideas. And what eventually happened was I gradually ended up back in Czech Republic. I decided to apply for the visa again. I finally found money. I had saved up. I had done it right. I had a company helping me to do everything. I got an apartment. I started my own, entrepreneurial freelancer business or whatever you want to call it. And I went all the way back to Croatia to apply because you had to go to the embassy outside of Prague. And I was rejected. And at the same time that visa was rejected, my friends in Prague, like one after another, had told me they were leaving. And my boyfriend at the time had broken up with me, and everything that I had had just fell apart and disappeared. It's like I felt like I had everything. I was so close to my final destination and reaching that goal, and then it just like slipped through my fingers. And it was anyway, everything that I had just felt like it had like slipped through my fingers, and it was so devastating. So the thing about me traveling is that I never set out to be a nomad. I never set out to do this. I really wanted just a home, a place to live that I could call my own, that would be, cheaper, and where I could work less, where I could worry less, where I would just be able to like have a pet and get comfortable, learn the foreign language, and have my family visit once in a while. And it wasn't working out. And another thing was, I felt really ashamed and embarrassed that I had failed again and again. And it was all me. It was all on me. Everything I had set out to do was my goal. There was no one else telling me like, you should do this. People were trying to actively tell me like, don't do this. This is stupid. This place you want to move to sucks. And it was all me and my dream and my failures. So I was really embarrassed. I eventually started traveling again. But what really stuck with me was when I told my friend that my visa didn't work out and that I had to leave, she said, "Oh, you can just be a digital nomad now." And for me, that was really strange because I'd never said to her that I wanted that. I didn't know that people talked about that. I've never really met anyone at that time. I hadn't met anyone who was like calling themselves a digital nomad. I thought those people were kind of douchebags, and I didn't really want to do that. I thought it was kind of the equivalent of like being homeless, but like a homeless hipster, and I didn't want that. But I felt validated, and because she said that, because she said those few words, I felt like I could do it, and like I had permission to do it. And when I had to eventually leave again, I went to Croatia, and then I went to a different city, and I went to Zagreb, Split, Budapest, Vienna, Belgrade, Novi Sad. I went all over the place, and I just traveled, and I took my suitcase with me, and I felt like I was finally doing what I wanted and living my dream. And so what I wanted to share with you guys is that for me, I never set out to do this nomad thing. I've since then tried really hard again to like settle down, but the truth of the matter is that I've learned a lot about myself. When someone tells you that you don't have a visa, you have to leave, and you have to basically take all of your belongings and either, throw them away in the dumpster outside of your apartment, or hand them off to friends, or, shove what you can into a tiny suitcase. When you're forced to leave and you're forced to try your hardest to land on your feet, you discover things about yourself that you never would have otherwise. And so I'm sorry I'm so emotional, you guys, but I really feel emotional about the fact that I have this apartment. And I also am just so grateful that Albania is here and that it's a place where I really can just, land on my feet, and I don't have to worry about applying for a visa. I can stay here for a year. It's amazing. People are so nice. They are so friendly. It's really been eye-opening, life-changing. I can't say enough good things. It has changed my entire life, just the fact that this country has open arms. So that's my nomad story. I'm sorry I got so emotional. I didn't think I would be like this, but to be honest with you, it's just hard for me to like talk about this without like straight up crying or something. So anyways, I'm a very happy girl right now. I will share more of my Albanian adventures with you. I do have a lot of really cool footage from Durrës, from Golem, and also from England, which I went to recently. So I will see you guys very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching me ramble. I wish you all the best in your travels and have a wonderful day. Bye.